Well, thank you.
Okay, Clif, I've got a question. Clif, you mentioned at the end of Shape 8, you ended with, what will the shadow government world do? In Shape 7, you mentioned a possible coup d'etat, and in Shape 9, you stated that food riots result in governmental collapse that triggers the hidden civilization to try a planetary takeover. What do you see in 2011 in regards to the hidden civilization?
Okay, now that's a speculation is that they would try a planetary takeover as opposed to an integration or something. The visibility rises to the point where it's no longer even an open secret by the time we reach the end of 2011 that this resource, or the resources have gone for years, decades even, into an increasingly larger portion of our populace that is still relatively small to the populace as a whole in terms of this being a shadow civilization. I used to think of it as a shadow government. I read the Dolan and Farrell books and have thought about these guys that way, but because it's now pan-national and treats the planet a particular way, we really have to, even though it's very small, we have to think of it as a civilization. And the question is whether or not they realize that they don't have carry value. In other words, they need the rest of the populace. That if we were all disappear overnight, they don't have enough individuals or capabilities to sustain themselves at their current level. They still need us. And in fact, they need us even more as they get ready to attempt to make that, outing or rise in visibility. So I'm hoping it'll be nice and peaceful and interesting. I'm certain it'll be interesting, but I'm hoping it'll be nice and peaceful, and that everybody can sit down and we can chat about things and not have recrimination. But it's bound to be as socially disorienting as anything they're going through in Egypt on a global scale. How are we all going to react to that?
What's the difference, Cliff, between the hidden civilization and maybe Jay Wiedner's archons? I'm finding it hard to differentiate the two.
Okay, here's the difference. There's a realistic possibility that beings from Mars, or it doesn't matter where they're really from, but beings who temporarily resided on Mars came back here and set up shop, and they are the ones that set conditions in place that allowed what I'm referring to as the hidden civilization to appear. The hidden civilization, in my definition, are all local boys. They're all terrestrial humans. They're all born here. They're just real smart. They've been shoveled into compartmentalized science projects with reverse engineering who's-he-was-its from outer space, and they got even smarter, and they got a different view of reality, and they got even smarter there. But they're basically local boys. And so Jay Wiedner's description of the Archons is a situation where the Archons are, even though some of them may be terrestrial in the sense that they might have even been born here, the species as a whole is not terrestrial human and is not terrestrially human oriented in terms of their thinking. So even now, the local civilization, or the hidden civilization guys, when they go on vacation, they think of going to Hawaii and maybe having some coconut pie, right? And they're not particularly, they're still terrestrially bound by their upbringing, their thoughts, and so on. That will change over the course of a couple of generations going out into space, but at the moment we have this rather unique situation. So Jay Wiedner's Archons are the other guys that, if he's correct, they've all bolted for home because they know we're so close to the major sun explosion that they want to bury themselves deep into the rocks in Mars. Mars is interesting because it doesn't have the tectonic activity. It doesn't have the crust floating over fluid magma, and underneath that, either if you believe academic science, it is a giant ball of molten iron, or if you think about it another way, it's a big plasma ball of excited energy. Mars, in that sense, is a dead planet and has it may have Mars quakes, but it's not due to the same kind of situation we have here. So if you had to shelter from solar activity, that would be the place to have your cave. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that may be the case indeed. And from Jay's viewpoint, a lot of craziness that's happened on our planet makes sense if the overarching and overriding controllers have packed up and left the rather stupid minions in charge.
Okay, thanks, Clif. One last question in the global pop entity. I did watch videos on John Chang and his abilities to start a fire and catch a bullet and put a chopstick through a table. Is the caveman expected to show similar abilities, but on a grander scale?
I don't know about grander because it's all the same. It's just a question of how you choose to demonstrate it. So the very same energies that John Chang is using, in his cosmology, the separation line is between yin and yang, expressed a different way is going to show up with the caveman, but he could use that same energy and levitate if he wanted. Levitation is kind of stupid because all you do is float off the ground a little bit. I think driving chopsticks through tables is a lot cooler. Or some of the stuff I've heard about him doing, and if you read the book The Magus of Java, you understand some of the capability of that power. For instance, he can be driving at 120 miles an hour in a car with 3 or 4 passengers, smash that car to smithereens, and yet encapsulate all the passengers in protective yin energy such that any destruction is minimized and they don't have even a scratch. And then, in fact, the deceleration, the rapid deceleration from 120 miles an hour into to wreckage, they're not even really aware of it. They don't feel it because of the yin energy cocoon he can put around them. So that's what the caveman kind of stuff is certainly going to demonstrate. But like I say, it's not unique or anything. It's not different. It's the same stuff that John Chang does, which is cool. Amazing. I mean, it's truly amazing stuff.
I can't wait to the no scenes. We'll move over to the space coach parts now, Clif. Diane, you have a question for Clif?
Yeah, I sure do. In my research over the last few years, I've come across 3 separate things which I believe could involve unknown energies from space. The first is one of your favourites, the sun releasing energy as per the 87-odd day cycle. The second one, which is talked about quite a lot, is this larger central sun, which could be sending out gamma rays or other forms of radiation, and that would affect Earth. And the third thing, maybe this is not in something that you believe in, but Planet X is being discussed a lot as well. And I'm wondering if that would be close enough to throw the magnetism of the sun and the Earth and the other planets into disarray. So have you got anything in your data that shows any of these things?
No, and that's the real. Well, we have the. Let me put it another way. The data is so broad it could define, or that any of those 3 could fall in there as well as others. So, for instance, also it could be the photon belt, which is the concept that as you get down to the plane of the ecliptic within the Milky Way, there's so many suns there that the combined effect of all of that light, in essence, changes it from just regular old solar light to something that excites your sun even more. And so our data is broad enough to include all 3 of those, and that's why we went ahead and put it under the unknown energies from space. Now, there are some things that are seeming to point again towards our sun, whether it's, and in fact, actually, we can probably say it's not locally caused because it's occurred in our lifetime. In my lifetime, the sun has gone from yellow to this rather whitish sort of color thing we've got going at the moment. And so it is causing local effects here within our solar system, whatever the cause of the sun's distress or changes, whether it's the mega sunspot cycle or that's merely a symptom of a larger cycle, is unknown at this point and may be moot insofar as we're concerned, because the unknown energies from space could indeed even be contributing to and building up to manifest themselves as our little walkabout magnetic poles. And if that's the case, then certain other speculations have a higher potential for manifesting. None of them are particularly good for humans. And if we're lucky enough, humans will survive, that the race will continue, that kind of a thing. I mean, it's a fairly grim prognosis if we look at the unknown energies from space alone within the Space Goats parts. It's gone from, I want to say maybe 3 or 4% way back when, which was still a shockingly large amount, to well into double digits at this point.
Wow.
In terms of the total amount of mass within that particular entity. And yet the entity itself, while growing, is not growing at a rate anywhere near that fast.
So that probably means it's still a way away from happening?
It doesn't quite work that way because the entities can suddenly stop receiving support, and in this is what leads to a false positive, so to speak, in our work here. We're going along, we're building up on, we get data on an earthquake, then we do another run and we get more data building up under the same linguistic set for that same earthquake, or so we think, and this actually happened to us. Then we do another third run and we get data that suggests the earthquake's very large and it's going to have these specific conditions. It's going to empty a courthouse. There's going to be a trial involved that involves celebrities and this kind of thing. And along comes a small earthquake which empties the Peterson trial in the middle of the year. This is like 2003 or something, which it met all of the linguistic requirements, but it was just small in terms of the emotional requirements. It didn't have anywhere near the impact. And the couple of things it didn't have with it were the 300,000 people killed and the nation kicked back to a previous age. So I think, oh, okay, well, we really blew it there. And what actually occurred that year was that shortly before the Peterson quake, all of the support for that data set just stopped. So in the fourth run that year, there was just no data coming in under the earthquake subset there at all. Therefore, when we wrote up the report for that period of time, we said, oh, okay, this is when it's going to happen, because that's usually what happens, is that the data sets stop gaining support and then they manifest shortly thereafter, as though you were watching the reverse of the little seismos for the earthquakes, where as long as it's shaking, you're doing okay, but when it stops shaking, you really have to worry about it. And so we can't say for certain that at this point that data is continuing to come in under that set. Therefore, and also we can't say that it's going to continue to support it, and so at any given time it can stop, and there you go. Makes sense? I mean,
yes, it's great. Thank you.
Okay, Groundrod, I believe you have a question for Clif.
Well, yeah, I'll try here. Clif, in recent revelations you've made about what the data gap represents leaves me wondering at times if it wouldn't be best for us to shut down and disband as a group. It's been tried several times, yet we've developed some powerful friendships and refused to be easily swayed. One of the things I've joked about with our admin is he should never have spent hundreds of hours transcoding every one of your interviews into YouTube videos and posted them on the WebBot forum channel in jest, but goes to the idea that all this is going to do is make the data gap worse. So my question is, does anything about us show up as a positive, one that aids in your work?
Well, I do have that. But let's deal with the other issue first. Yes, I have information that it's positive. I have tendency not to look at that because I don't want to be tainted by